Hello, and welcome to Celebration of Mind at Stanford. Wonderful to see all of you here this evening. Welcome to an exciting journey of mathematics, art, magic, and more. The Celebration of Mind event is part of a global series that honors the work and inspiration of Martin Gardner. Martin Gardner is well known for his mathematical games column in Scientific American, which ran from the 1950s to the 1980s. He's also famous for the annotated Alice in Wonderland, for his skills as a magician, and for much, much more. Gardner's influential writings have motivated gatherings of mathematicians, artists, and magicians, puzzlers, game designers, and others for whom Gardner has provided a spark of inspiration. Die-hard fans of Martin Gardner have formed a cult-like community that comes together to celebrate his work and influence in a biannual symposium known as Gathering for Gardner, or G4G. This unique gathering brings together highly talented individuals, many of whom are the best at what they do, across the broad spectrum of fields that Martin has touched. Following Gardner's death in 2010, another series of events known as Celebration of Mind were launched worldwide in an outreach effort to spread Martin's ideas and share in the delight of his work beyond the G4G community. Celebration of Mind events typically take place on or around October 21st, that's tomorrow, Martin Gardner's birthday, and this is one of many happening internationally this weekend. In these events, brilliant and creative individuals who capture the spirit of Martin's work engage curious audiences and entertain and inspire. It is a great pleasure to host this Celebration of Mind in collaboration with Stanford Continuing Studies, bringing together three of the greats of the G4G community. Our presenters will demonstrate amazing creativity and passion for their crafts. They will not only entertain, but from them we will learn how to stretch our imagination, leverage our curiosity, deepen our passion. All three have benefited from Martin Gardner's influence, and these three exemplify the breadth of Martin's work and impact. I didn't introduce myself at the start. I'm Rick Sommer. I'm the Executive Director of Stanford Pre-Collegiate Studies, one of the sponsors of this event, and it's a great pleasure to be working together with Continuing Studies. Before segueing into our main speakers, I want to bring to the stage a special guest who flew to the Bay Area when he heard about what we are doing here. Martin's son, Jim Gardner, is here today, and I've asked him to say a few words as part of our introduction about his father, Martin Gardner. Please welcome Jim Gardner.
Oh, you did it. Thank you. Well, this is my first time to the Stanford campus. It's a beautiful campus. I'm honored to be here, and I'm pleased to be able to say, just like you, if it wasn't for the work of Martin Gardner, I wouldn't be here today. But I'm also a member of the G4G Executive Board Foundation. Nancy Blackman, who is our chairman, is also here with the Julia Robinson Math Festival. And so I have about 3 or 4 minutes, and I thought I would just take this opportunity to just share with you a couple things about my dad. And Nancy has used this quote in some of her materials, but I think this really captures the spirit of the Celebration of Mind. Surely the best way to wake up a student is to present an intriguing mathematical game, puzzle, magic trick, joke, paradox, model, or limerick. That was from the Introduction to Mathematical Carnival by Dad. And so just to give you a couple of my more favorite photos, if you've never seen what Dad looks like, here's one for you. This is one of my favorites of Dad. Here's one where when they were taking it, you'll notice some things like Klein bottles and some other visual illusions that he certainly always enjoyed to see. He was also a magician. And so here he is levitating a spoon. He did that with his psychic energy from his mind. And he was also, of course, able to do that with cards. This is one of the later photos. And this is a caricature that was done of Dad by Ken Fallon that appeared in the Wall Street Journal I happen to own the original, and I wrote directly to him because it was so marvelous. And I'm the little one on the left. So that was taken probably around 1959 or so when we lived in Dobbs Ferry. So fundamentally, I'm gonna end with this same quote, but with three highlights. And it has to do with mathematics, magic, and paradox. And what I think is going to be phenomenal tonight is every one of the three speakers that you're going to hear are going to fit one or more of those categories. So thank you very much for being here, and I again appreciate the opportunity to come and say hello to you.
So I mentioned the intersections of mathematics and art in Martin's work. Our first presenter tonight is going to be Alexa Meade, whose creative art form produces a 2D illusion in a 3D world. Her innovative approach has gained her worldwide acclaim with major exhibitions internationally. Alexa has collaborated with scientists, mathematicians, magicians, as well as music pop star Ariana Grande. Alexa also uses her art to influence social good, for example, in her collaboration on the experimental short film titled Color of Reality, which earned CNN's Artist Impact Award. Alexa's influence continues to grow and expand. Gardner's spark is definitely there. I'm always excited to see what she has to say next, so please join me in welcoming Alexa Meade.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alexa Meade, and my main body of work involves portraits. I paint pictures of people, but I don't paint them on canvas. I paint them directly on top of the people that I'm trying to represent. Everything that's in this space gets covered in a mask of paint that makes the world appear to be a two-dimensional painting. I'm creating a mapping of the light in a one-to-one ratio on my subject. So I'm painting the shadow under the leg directly on top of where the shadow would be under the leg. Everything in this world is just reinterpreted in paint. Now, a lot of people wonder how I came up with this idea, where did I go to art school? And I have to say that I'm primarily a self-taught artist. I used to like making art when I was in high school, but I was always too perfectionistic. I could never finish anything. And in this color pencil self-portrait, I just kept on messing up the eyes. I kept on trying over and over again to get it right until the point that I broke through the paper with my colored pencil on both eyes and then taped paper to the back of it and kept trying again, and yet still could never be happy with it. But I mean, I didn't think that I had any chance of being an artist, so this didn't really seem like that big of a deal. It was just a very early indicator that this was not a career path for me. I was very certain that what I wanted to do would have to be running for political office someday. I grew up in Washington, D.C. I was absolutely obsessed with politics. I'd interned on Capitol Hill for 4 summers. I did press for the Obama campaign in 2008. And I had this really neat, narrow path laid out for me. I was finishing up my senior year at Vassar College, getting my degree in political science, when I realized all of a sudden that, okay, what if this thing that I thought was my dream, I no longer felt inspired by? And now what? Because I didn't have any training in anything else whatsoever. And it was absolutely terrifying, but also at the same time somewhat liberating, because all options were on the table, all were equally implausible, and had the same rate of failure, so it seemed. And I decided, okay, I'm going to start my new life over, and I'm going to be a furniture designer. I spent my time learning how to woodwork, learning how to weld, and I was doing all of this in the sculpture facilities at my college. In order to have access to the facilities, I had to be enrolled in a studio art class, and I decided to take sculpture so I could learn more about building things. One day, the teacher gave us a homework assignment. We needed to make a sculpture about a landscape that was not a sculpture of a landscape. This made absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. I tried to ask the professor to clarify. He refused to. I had to just figure it out on my own. And the solution that I came up with was thinking about okay, what if I were to describe the landscape through the shadows on the ground? There's this tree over there. The sunlight is hitting it. And then where there's the absence of light on the ground, that shadow describes this form somewhere in the distance. And that painting on these shadows could be a way of describing this three-dimensional space through the absence of light. I thought this was absolutely brilliant. My professor, not at all interested. I ended up having to do something else to satisfy the assignment. I ended up making a cardboard house, and he thought it was the greatest thing ever. But this idea really stuck with me. I was fascinated with light and what I could do to capture the shadow side of that with some materiality. And I decided a week before graduating with my degree in political science that I would do an experiment on my friend Bernie. I painted on him a mapping of the light, the shadow, and I realized that something very weird was happening on my camera. I thought my camera was broken. It didn't make any sense to me. And then I realized that this was actually something going on. This was this new type of optical illusion that I had accidentally stumbled upon. And I decided that I wanted to explore this. I wanted to figure out what was accounting for this. And I knew that if I were to communicate this idea visually, I'd have to become a better artist and painter. When I graduated from college the following week and went back to Washington, D.C., I decided not to get a job on Capitol Hill, much to the chagrin of my parents and very much bucking the trend of all my peers who were graduating from college and going off to get real jobs. I made it my job to teach myself how to paint in my parents' basement. And I didn't want to practice by painting on canvas. I wanted to practice painting on physical objects to be able to capture their depth. And so my early subjects included things like grapefruit, which had issues of the acid eating through the underside of the paint, or an egg, which I finished it, and I thought, okay, I'm going to come back the next day, maybe do some more work on it, and I found ants eating it, and the egg was shriveled, and it was disgusting. And I realized that in this style of painting I was developing, it was the perfect niche for me too, because if previously I was never able to finish a painting because I was overly perfectionistic, I had to keep coming back to it, keep on overworking it, this forced me to work fast. I had to immediately finish something promptly after starting it if it were to survive. I would oftentimes practice painting on myself since, again, my friends had jobs. And then when I wanted to find people who weren't me to practice on, I found a retired man. And these subjects ended up being just the most interesting people, far more interesting than if I had painted on canvas. And I think part of what really inspires me about this work is the breaking within the plane of 2D and 3D, where you see this two-dimensional painted figure, and then at once there's three-dimensional reality surrounding it. It's like this visual paradox. In the static, still photographic frame, that message can be communicated. But one thing I love is that when you bring to it video, that allows for a communication of the illusion by still maintaining the internal consistency of the painted world. This short film, Color Reality, was a collaboration with John Boog's Lil Buck. And the short film ends up later on in it being about gun violence, and it's ended up having a huge impact. So I encourage you guys to look that up. I obviously can't play all of it here. But another project I did in collaboration with an artist was with Sheila Vand, where we got a swimming pool filled with milk, and then I would paint on Sheila, and she would go in the milk, and we would find all the most amazing things would happen. The milk would start out as a totally clean blank white canvas, and then moments later it would completely evolve. Colors would form and swirl all around her body in the most unpredictable patterns. And we just had so much fun experimenting, seeing where this could take us. Recently, I was asked by Ariana Grande's team if I could recreate this look with the pop star. And so I painted her in a giant pool of milk. And I should note, it was not milk, it was a vegan milk substitute. And this ended up going worldwide, global, all over the place. It was interesting to see how people were reinterpreting this look themselves. They took this seed of inspiration and were painting themselves in a bathtub. And it became all sorts of fodder for people. It's my favorite. Hashtag God is a shrimp bisque. And this is something that my mind could have never come up with. And I love just seeing how creativity flies in all these different directions. Now, making artwork that sometimes ends up going viral or ends up in places in front of a lot of people puts a lot of pressure on me. And sometimes it feels threatening to try to create something new or innovate outside of these bounds I've already created. And so I find so much value in just playing and creating projects that you don't expect anyone to really see, but there's just something about it that really tickles your imagination. And so that's why I live in a fun house. Everything in my house is some sort of weird optical illusion that I'm developing. It's like my test kitchen for new ideas. As you enter the home, you see this welcome sign, but you'll notice it's in a mirror because it's a reflection of a sign that's backwards that says Emaclew. You're metaphorically going through the looking glass when you enter my home. Mirrors are set up everywhere. My bathroom sign is one V shape, reflects to become a W, reflects again to become an M. And then one of the most fun things with mirrors in the house is this periscope system that's set up. While lying in bed, I can see out of every window in the house at the same time as the light zigzags, bends around corners. And some people have said that I must be paranoid and this is some weird surveillance system. But it's actually a way of doubling the amount of windows in your house and getting a whole lot of natural light. So it's excellent. And when I do all of these fun, weird side projects that I don't expect to really be anything other than just the fun of creating them, I find that they oftentimes will feed back into my main body of work and allow me to create things that I wouldn't have been able to get to if I hadn't first done all those dabblings off to the side. And that's a true window back there. That's the beach. I love that because it feels like it's a photo on the wall of a painting, but that's reality through there. And then my kitchen breakfast nook totally transforms. Everything folds away, and it turns into a disco, complete with lasers, there's a fog machine, color-changing lights. It's crazy having a party in your kitchen for breakfast. Now, all of this playing with color-changing lights makes this a very in-demand place where wristbands are required for entry. But it also inspires me to make art around that. There's this sign that I made that says, "No, there, nowhere." But when you add on the lights, it appears to animate as different parts of the words pop out. And I thought, what else can I do with color-changing lights and colored paint? And I thought about this mathematical concept of the Necker cube illusion, where with a wireframe cube, it's ambiguous what side is the front and what side is the back. And so I decided to see if I could, with paint, make the front and back of the cube fade back and forth. I get a lot of inspiration from old illusions that I find too, like the Necker cube. One of them was from World War I. Military ships were painted in these crazy zebra patterns, and this was called dazzle camouflage. It made it impossible for the enemies to tell which direction the ship was going in, how fast it was going, and so it was incredibly hard to hit these targets because even though they were so loud, they were essentially hiding in plain sight. And I wanted to try to use that as a means of making a three-dimensional space two-dimensional. And this was a project I did for the 29 Rooms exhibit, where people got to put on all of these different types of invisibility cloaks to completely blend into the background. And you may notice that woman there, but did you notice the man who's taking her photo? And of course, being obsessed with color and color change, I had to, after hours, see what happens with that. I think it would have given people too much of a headache if it were in real life. The funhouse is filled with all sorts of trapdoors, hidden secrets, surprises, and it really keeps me limber, having to essentially navigate through an obstacle course to get through my kitchen. And it's very easy to get lost, so that's why I made this map. This that you're seeing is not just the floor plan of the house, but also the ceiling plan and the wall plan. So if you were to flat pack the three-dimensional form of my house, this is how it would all lay out. And this map is very important because there's all sorts of surprises, such as in the bathroom closet. There's neon spandex hanging down. And then when you put on these special glasses, it turns the world to rainbows. And it feels like colors touching you all over your face and body. And it's almost like synesthesia. This also doubles as a guest bedroom. I've been told by guests that they've had nightmares here that spiders were crawling all over their face because of the spandex just slapping against them at weird times in the night. Now, this neon spandex has, again, managed to influence my main body of work. I was recently asked to paint the trees in New York City, and everything was going full steam ahead when all of a sudden the Parks Department stepped in and said, "You are not allowed to put paint on trees." And they said, you know, if you wrap the trees in canvas, maybe you could do that. But I realized if I just wrapped the trees in spandex, then I could make a really nice snug fit. And so now, because of my bathroom closet, trees on Bleecker Street in Greenwich Village are all spandex, hypercolored, beautiful. My bathroom medicine cabinet is ye olde gifty shoppy. And you can tell that this is a place for serious commerce by this sales tax license. So I am officially allowed to collect money for things sold here. And being a fun house, I had to be innovative in payment processing. This is the original tablet card reader. And if you feel uncomfortable paying by tablet, I understand. I've also designed my own currency, and I call this the up-down coin. So you'll see it's UP for up, and then if you rotate it around, it becomes down. And so it's both up and down on the same face of the coin. And then when you flip it over to the other side, it's also up and down. So at all times, it's both up and down on all faces at once. I thought this was kind of cool. I try explaining it to people. They don't really get it. But then when I brought this to the Perimeter Institute for Theoretical Physics, where I was artist in residence, these scientists were like, oh my God, I'm a quantum physicist, and it's impossible to explain to people quantum states, and this is a qubit. This is perfect. So because I have a gift shop in my bathroom, now these theoretical physicists have a tool for teaching about qubits. And I want to talk about a collaboration with my friend Henry Segerman, who is also a speaker here. We, in my studio, created this optical illusion where we have these lines that appear to be straight that we painted in, but this is actually from a 360 spherical camera. And so all these lines that appear parallel all converge in the center where the eye of the camera is. And that means that if you're walking in circles around the camera, it appears like you're going in a totally straight line and like you're walking off the edge of the Earth and then coming back through the other side. Now, I love playing with all sorts of different mathematical concepts. Again, totally unrelated to painting. One day I was drawing overlapping circles, and I thought, OK, what if I cut out along the edges of these arcs? And I realized you can create really cool tessellations where everything fits together in this magical way. And I thought, wow, I am a genius. I invented something. I rushed and I filed a patent for it. And then I learned that in 1904, somebody beat me to it and had patented this exact concept. And that was a little disheartening, but it's still, I was so inspired and so excited about the idea of how these shapes fit together. And I wanted to see what else I could do with them. I wanted to see, can I make them in different sizes? Can I make them giant, like as if they're a floor mat? So I have this treasure trail that you can totally rearrange to make functional, like for an area rug. And then scaling it down to a smaller size, I was able to have bath toys. I actually wanted to play with tessellations in the bath. And it was really cool because as the water would slosh around, the shapes would go farther apart, and then they would come together, and they would find each other and spontaneously form tessellations in the water. And then I thought about other bodies of water that I could put tessellations in, and I settled upon breakfast cereal. And you might be asking, what do you have a life? Why would you be making tessellating breakfast cereal? And the answer is, I don't know, but it really excites me. And so a similar area of obsession is with Braille. I've always been absolutely fascinated by it. And so several years ago, I started learning how to read Braille. And then I started thinking, OK, what if you were to take certain Braille letters and mirror them, and they form other letters backwards? Could you make palindromes out of Braille, where something reads one way in Braille, and then it's mirrored, it turns into something else? And I found a couple of words. Ice backwards in Braille is ice. Rid becomes few. And then my absolute favorite one was the word fixed. Fixed backwards in Braille is fixed. That is mind-blowing, right? It's fixed. No one really finds it that interesting, but I really get off on this. So anyways, I'm obsessed with Braille, but I've been dismayed because there's nowhere that I can practice reading it. The only instances I find of Braille in the wild are an ATM machine, an elevator, a bathroom. And so I decided that if I'm really going to be pursuing Braille, I need to have things to read other than a pin pad. And I, at that point, went to the Braille Institute in Los Angeles, and I went to the library and checked out some interesting reading material. This is Playboy magazine in Braille, so you can actually say you're reading it for the articles and not be lying. And then since my foot was already in the door there, I thought, okay, I might as well start volunteering. And I ended up volunteer teaching a paper mache class there for the blind. And one of my students is this man, Chris Cook, who's both deaf and blind. And he is the most prolific artist. And he's such an inspiration to me. And I asked him, where do you keep all of this artwork that you make? And he told me it was in his home and that I should come see it. So I went to visit him at his house. And I found the most amazing displays of thousands of pieces of art that he had created and set up to make his own town in his apartment. And he can't see any of this, and he's had no help putting it together, which is absolutely remarkable. He has hot air balloons and rocket ships. I mean, that's something that the Funhouse does not yet have. He has all of these scenes set up that make so much sense. And there's this entire inner world in his mind that he has been able to visually manifest and make real, which is so interesting and something that it just flows out of him. So I got together with my friends, and we decided that we needed to put on an art exhibit of his work. And this was just recently. It opened up a couple weeks ago in Los Angeles. We made a show that was accessible to the visually impaired. And so there were people there who came who were blind, who were deaf and blind, and all the work was meant to be picked up, touched, and felt. It was completely accessible. All signage was in print as well as in Braille so that no one was left out. And it was a really incredible experience for all these people who thought that they never had any reason to go to an art gallery ever, and then now this was a show that was meant just for them. After the opening, Chris sent me a note, and in it it said that this show really opens a very happy door in the creative world to the public. If a door could feel something for an artist, it should be happiness. And that idea just hit me in this really weird way. I've never thought of a door as something that could have feelings. And that's also where I get so much of the value from collaboration, is encountering these other minds that are completely unlike my own. Even though we're both artists, visual artists, the bridge in just how our brains work to create the work we do absolutely inspires me. And I think about these happy doors of, because I was a dork and wanted to make Braille palindromes, now all of a sudden this deaf and blind man has a solo art exhibition that other visually impaired people can come to and appreciate. And I didn't think that I would become an artist. I'd studied politics. I thought I just didn't have what it took. And it was just a happy door and an accident that I fell into obsession with shadows, and I wanted to see where that would take me. And then all of these side journeys with the Funhouse, turning into things that weave into my main body of work, have really shown me that you never know when a happy door is being opened. But if you're feeling inspired and curious and want to follow your heart into something, I fully encourage you to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexa. That was fantastic. Next up was Henry Segerman standing next to me, and he was mentioned in Alexa's presentation. Henry received his PhD in mathematics from Stanford University, and he's currently an associate professor in the Department of Mathematics at Oklahoma State University. His research interests are in three-dimensional geometry and topology, and in mathematical art and visualization. He does remarkable work in a range of media, including 3D printing, spherical video, and virtual reality. His combination of mathematical brilliance and artistic creativity is rare and true to form in the spirit of Martin Gardner. Please join me in welcoming Henry Segerman.
Thank you all for being here. Let me just get myself set up. Okay, so yes. So I'm, as Rick said, I'm both a mathematician and an artist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you very, very briefly, I'm just going to show you some pictures of the kind of math that I do, which is maybe not the kind that you've seen before. And then I'm going to talk a lot about my visualization work, my artwork. And I'm going to say just a few words about sort of philosophizing about what makes a good illustration, and then show you a bunch more pretty pictures. So let's get started with the math. So this is the kind of math that I do. So I do 3D geometry and topology. So I'm very often sort of drawing pictures of surfaces intersecting with other things. There's not many equations. There's occasionally some numbers, but that's about it. I use computers a lot in my work. So this is a project which is still ongoing. But you can see I'm trying to figure out these complicated systems, and I'm using computers to do that. And so it's sort of natural to draw pictures in illustration to sort of bring these ideas out into the broader public. So this is a good sort of image that kind of crosses over between the two worlds, between the sort of mathematical world and the visualization art world. So this is a picture here of an important example in my mathematics research. So what you're supposed to imagine is going on here is that there's a sort of ball of material, and then a worm goes in and sort of eats out a knotted curve through the middle of this hole. And this three-dimensional thing that you get here is something called the complement of the figure 8 knot, which is a very important example in hyperbolic geometry. And this is, of course, 3D printed, so that I don't have it with me, unfortunately, but because it's kind of big. But you can touch it, and you can feel it, and you can sort of sense how it goes together. And I should mention, a lot of the stuff that I do is in collaboration with multiple people. I'm not going to mention all of their names, but you'll see these things showing up here. And I've got this table full of 3D printed things here. We're not going to, there isn't time to sort of hand things around. But at the end, after everybody's talks and we've done the questions, please come up and play with the stuff. Being able to touch and feel the things is somehow a big part of doing this, and you're not going to get that experience just seeing the pictures on screen. So I do a lot of 3D printing work, and there's a lot of sort of different interesting bits of mathematics you can get to. These, of course, are the platonic solids, known since antiquity as the shapes you can make, the regular shapes you can make out of squares and triangles and pentagons and so on. Or you can go sort of more complicated into these Archimedean solids, where you're allowed to have, they all have to be made out of regular polygons, but you're allowed to have different polygons. And then you can say, well, why don't I sort of do something with these polyhedra that isn't just sort of making them? So this was, I guess I was just say joint work with a couple of friends. This was the first mass-produced 120-sided die. So if you need to choose between 120 different possibilities, you can do it with one of these. This is not 3D printed. This is mass-produced injection molded. These are some other works along these lines. So these dice look a little strange. They're actually just as fair as ordinary dice, even if they don't look like it. These are all cubes, which is kind of slightly squished. But all of the faces are the same shape. They're just sort of tessellated in this sort of less symmetric way, but it's symmetric enough to make it fair. Here's the same thing done with dodecahedra, but somehow it's less impressive because nobody really knows what a dodecahedron looks like. So they don't see that this is weird, but everybody knows what a cube looks like. So yeah, I do a lot of 3D printing work. This was for a university in Melbourne. It was the end of the financial year, and they had a bunch of money to spend. And so they wanted me to make these big, these are examples of quadric surfaces. People have done multivariable calculus, these sort of classic examples of these surfaces. And you can see next to them, there are these much smaller examples, which are just as good and much cheaper. And I use these ones when I'm teaching Calculus 3. And they really help students sort of understand, you give them the equation and it's sort of difficult to understand the shape. But if you can print it out and you can draw the contours and so on, then this helps a lot. So one of the surfaces there was a sphere. Here's another sphere with a self-referential idea here. So maybe you can see outlined here, there's an S here, and a P, and an H, E, R, and E. So this is a sphere tiled with the word sphere 20 times. This is sort of similar to Alexa's fixed. It is a fixed thing that says fixed, and this is a spherical thing that says sphere. Here's a bunny that says bunny. So it's maybe a little hard to see. So there's a B here, and then U, N, N, Y. So there were 72 copies of the word bunny on this bunny. Moving on to topology. So this is the classic topologist joke. A topologist can't tell the difference between a coffee mug and a donut so I am a topologist. So there are these 7 identical things here. I can't tell the difference between them, but some people tell me they can. So you can 3D print in ceramic as well as all kinds of amazing materials you can 3D print in. Ideally, what would go on here is that this would be a ceramic mug, and then it would sort of gradually transition to an actual donut made up of donut material. But the 3D printers don't yet exist to do this. But when they do, I'll have to update this. More topology. This is a knot curving around in space. This one has a particularly interesting property, which is that it rolls. So if you, is this going to repeat, or do I have to go back? Maybe I'll just go and, actually I've got this one here, so I might as well. It's probably too small to see from the back, but you can come and play with this later. So the deal is that if you just imagine some curve in space, probably there'll be some way that you can sort of lay it down where it's touching on 3 points. And if it touches on 3 points, it's a triangle, it's stable. And this never has 3 points. There are no tritangent points. And so it rolls. And as far as I know, this is the only knot shape which is known to have this property. So if you know of any others, let me know. Similar sort of idea. This is, I'm going to mention some of these. Lee Braswell is in the theater department at my university, Oklahoma State. And he works in sort of circus rigging sort of stuff. So I'm not an expert. This guy is. I'm going to show you what this thing is supposed to do. This is the inside view from inside of the sphere, and this is the outside view. So the idea here is there's this whole class There's this whole class of circus apparatus. Let me play it again. Where you get inside of a big metal thing and roll around, and there was this sort of question of what are the possibilities? What are the different sort of paths that you can follow?
So right backwards.
This is currently in Brooklyn. They've sort of stolen it from Oklahoma State for the semester, and they're practicing with people who actually know what they're doing. So you may see this at Cirque du Soleil in the future. Who knows? One of the things I like about 3D printing over something like computer animation is that it's sort of real. Well, it is real because it's a real piece of plastic, and you can interact with things that happen in the real world. So here's a soap film that's clinging around this 3D printed film, 3D printed boundary. So this is illustrating something called a minimal surface. Soap films sort of try to pull tight and reduce their area as much as possible. This is the knot from before with a soap film on it in a particular shape. This is an example, again, from topology, my area, of something called a Seifert surface. A Seifert surface is a surface whose boundary is a particular knot or link. And so a soap film plus a 3D printed knot will get you this. Here are some more complicated Seifert surfaces that we had to 3D print because good luck in getting a soap film to do this. Turns out that it gets a little trickier to do this with real soap films, but you can do it sort of mathematically. This was a collaboration with Marco Mahler. Marco is, he's an artist who makes mobiles. So he's usually making giant metal mobiles to go in the lobbies of hotels and so on. And we were interested in doing this with 3D prints instead. And so there are these sort of beautiful balance things. These are, I guess, if you're a computer scientist, this is for you. This is a binary tree mobile, and this is a ternary tree mobile, and this is a quaternary tree mobile. They split 2, 3, and 4 times at each level. If you look at the bottom of the ternary tree, you see a fractal, the Sierpinski triangle. To explain the next 3D print, I have to tell you about a different kind of fractal, which is a space-filling curve. So the idea here is we start with just a straight line, and then we make it a bit more squiggly. So rather than a straight line, we have sort of a zigzag up and down, and I've smoothed it out a little bit to make it look nicer. And then this is made out of straight lines, and I squiggle each of those. And then all of those lines, I squiggle them, and squiggle them, and squiggle them. And you've got a lot of squiggles, and you can see this is starting to fill up this area. So this is the idea of a space-filling curve. Rather than animating this through time, you can animate it through space instead. And so there's the straight line at the top, which becomes gradually more and more wiggly as you get down towards the bottom. Here's a real-life example. We had a show at the Simon Center for Geometry and Physics at Stony Brook. We had this mirror underneath that let you see the squiggles underneath without having to sort of bend down and look underneath it. These are a few other examples with different sorts of fractal curves that you can build with these. One of the interesting things about doing this work, when I approach a new piece, what am I doing this for? I'm doing this my aim is to try and explain some mathematical concept in as clean a way as possible to just bring forward that idea. But of course, as with anything that you put out into the world, people can interpret it their own way. And so somebody decided that this looked like a skyscraper going for a walk. Just decided to come on board. and sort of squiggle out into the world. Talking about interpretations of things. So some people get kind of weirded out by this sculpture. And I just say, look, it's just showing the symmetries of the quaternion group in four-dimensional space. And they say, but there's these weird monkeys that look unhappy. But it's fine, really. So this is called More Fun Than a Hypercube of Monkeys. This is the souped-up version, more fun than a hypercube, sorry, than a 24-cell of monkeys. There are these other four-dimensional polyhedra that you can put monkeys in. This is the one with 120 monkeys. Let's see if this works if I just click on this. Or do I need to quit out of this? Let me quit out of this so I can go to this page so I can show you what it is. So this is the animated version. So you can go there on your phone right now if you want. It's at monkeys.hypernom.com. And this is sort of showing the animation every few seconds. Oh, whoops. Nobody told me that I hadn't put it on the other screen. There we go. So of course, I can't see that screen very easily. Yeah, OK. So every few seconds, what's going on is that this monkey is becoming this monkey. What is a symmetry? It's a sort of motion of some object that leaves it looking the same after you've done the motion. So every few seconds, this monkey is becoming this monkey, is becoming this monkey. So this is the 24-cell version. Sorry, the hypercube version. Here's the 24-cell version. And here's the 120-cell version with 120 monkeys spiraling around each other. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's see if I can get back to the presentation. Uh-oh. All right. Where is my mouse gone? Oh, I'm over there. This is always difficult. OK, so, all right. Let me tell you something about what makes a good visualization. And let me tell you about it with this particular example. And I'm actually going to do this one because it's really pretty. Could I get the lights down, please? I'm going to go over here. Yeah, I guess it's dark enough. Because you'll be able to see it. So I've got this sphere. And if I put the light in just the right place, then there's this. So that's what it is, right? It's a sphere. But if you put the light in the right place, then you get this square grid. Flash photography is not going to do you any good. And while we're here, I just have to show you one more that isn't in my. So here's another one. It's a sphere, right? So here's another sphere, and if I put the light in the right place, so you can actually. This is math, yeah. Thank you. So what's going? Okay, so why is this a good illustration? I mean, there was a surprise there, right? There was a wait a minute, how did that happen? I need to understand what's going on, and now you've got them. I should mention, what is this illustrating? This is illustrating something called stereographic projection. So the light rays from this flashlight go down and hit the sphere, and then they go down and hit the plane. Stereographic projection is that map. It goes from the sphere to the plane just by following that line. And so the shadow that you get is really the stereographic projection of the pattern on the sphere. This was known to the ancient Greeks. It was used in the first celestial maps. And so you can explain the idea without using any equations. You can write down equations, but it's not necessary, right? People can get the idea just by looking at this. There's no way to cheat, right? If this was a computer animation, you'd be like, yeah, whatever, people can cheat there. This is a piece of plastic and a flashlight, and you think you understand what a piece of plastic and a flashlight will do. Last thing to say about this, this was not an easy photograph to take. I mean, you saw when I was doing this tiny, tiny movement in the light changes the shadow a lot. So what's actually going on here is that the flashlight is attached to a rod, and there's a cross beam and a couple of clamp stands, and the hand is purely decorative. It's just trying not to move the light because it's all set up properly. And it solves a problem that I had, which is that if the hand isn't there, people think that it's a computer render. It's too accurate, and they don't see what's actually going on. Anyway, so this, I think, worked really well. Here's some other patterns that you can do with this. And some more patterns. We did a show in Edinburgh where this was, you went through and you got to play with these things. So this is projecting the globe onto the wall. This was a 4-meter tall version of that grid. Another a room full of tilings. And then there was this one. This is a zoetrope. Some people may not have heard of a zoetrope, so I'll just tell you. So there's a rotating wheel going on here, and there are 30 copies of the sculpture which are very slightly changed from neighboring copies. And this is rotating around, and there's a strobe light going on this. So real 3D prints don't do this, right? They would break. This is an illusion, but it's, and this is showing a rotating hypercube, or the projection of a rotating hypercube in four-dimensional space. This, however, is a real 3D print moving. This is a triple gear, is what we call this. And I won't say much about what this is, except to tell you one story about where this came from. So there are these 3 gears that are sort of intermeshed with each other, and they all rotate. So I grew up in Manchester, and this is a bus shelter ad. And the idea here is that there are 3 different transportation systems that are going to come together to make the city run really well. And there's a problem here that if you think about what's going on, if this one rotates around this way, then this one has to rotate around this way. And this one doesn't have a way to rotate. And this one is great. The teachers, the students, and the parents come together, and nothing happens. You can get that slide from me later. Here's another sort of example. This is actually 4 different straight line gears that are sort of moving through each other. So a sort of linear solution to that problem. This was one with 5 gears moving through each other. This is very recent. And I've been doing a lot of sort of, that was in reverse. It's much easier to do that than the reverse. This is showing the true geometry on a torus should be flat geometry. When it's flat like this, then it actually tiles the Euclidean plane. And when it's curved up, it still tiles the Euclidean plane. It just doesn't look like it. These are puzzles based on 4-dimensional things. And again, you can't really do that in real life. I reversed the video. I've recently been getting into expanding mechanisms. So this is an expanding cube and expanding dodecahedron. And this one is the crystal structure of diamond, so making these sort of big expanding structures. So this is all very well, and it's fun, cool stuff. But any educator will tell you that seeing some stuff is not going to have as much of an impact on the student as doing it themselves. At Oklahoma State, we have a 3D printing lab in the mathematics department with some printers over here. And I run a course, geometry and design, whatever, something, 3-dimensional algorithms. So upper level undergraduates make and design 3D prints using the sort of knowledge that hopefully they've learned in their previous math classes. These are some of the third week homeworks from some of my students, making parametric curves in space. These are some of their final projects, fractal trees and Menger cubes and Fibonacci sequences and who knows what. This is a fun one. This is a cookie roller. So you make a pattern on the cookie roller, and then you roll it through. This is Play-Doh, but you could do it with real cookie dough, and it makes a pattern. And yeah, they do all kinds of cool stuff and learn real math. I mean, it's sort of the math that you get at the exam at the end of an ordinary course is very prepackaged things, which is exactly what you can solve using the techniques that you learnt in, whatever the length of your exam is. But once you get into the real world of trying to actually make things which you had the idea before you knew how hard it was going to be, it's a very different story, and you get a much broader idea of what mathematics actually is. And there's just this quote from George Hart, which I think is fantastic. The more math you know, the more stuff you can make. So I want to show you just briefly one thing in virtual reality, and then I'm going to show a couple of things. Alexa already mentioned some of the stuff I do in spherical video. I'm just going to show you a couple of other things. But first, the VR. So this is a picture of 3-dimensional hyperbolic space as seen from inside of a VR headset. So let's see. I'm not going to be able to turn the sound down on this. Hopefully the people in the booth are going to be able to. Or I'll just talk loudly over myself. So what's going on here is I'm here in the real world, and you can see that there's a grid of squares down here. These squares are the same size as the cubes that I'm walking through in virtual reality. Now, we started in a black cube, and you just notice we went to a blue cube and then a green cube. So if Euclidean and hyperbolic space were the same, this would be black, blue, green, white, yellow. Wait a minute, I'm not back where I started. So what's actually going on here is that in this world, cubes fit 6 around each edge, not 4. And you can do that in hyperbolic space. You can't do it in Euclidean space. So I had to walk around 6 right angles in order to get back to where I started. So, and there's all kinds of really fantastic things that you can sort of do book learning on. You can realize that this is a thing that you should see if you were in hyperbolic space. But with this, you can really sort of viscerally experience it, which is, it adds something to your understanding of what this stuff is to be able to be in there and do it. OK, that was VR. Now what about spherical video and spherical photography? So this is me inside of a photograph. A spherical photograph, you can actually maybe see, so I'm inside of some sort of sculpture by Andrea Hawksley, who may be here, in fact. But you can see that there's the sky above me and the ground below me, and this actually sees everything all around. So what's going on here is that you have this spherical 360 camera, which sees everything around you, and this is sort of the unwrapped view, where you see the kind of equator of the sphere is unwrapped horizontally, and then up and down is sort of going up to the North Pole above me and going down to the South Pole, except I rotated this, so it looks confusing. This was a photograph from the Bridges conference, one of the Bridges conferences. There's this great community of mathematical artists that meet every year up at the Bridges conference. This was in Finland. The next one, I think, is in Baltimore somewhere. Oh, no, it's in Linz in Austria. It moves around. There's a big community of mathematical artists. If you're interested in any of this stuff, check it out. So I wanted to show you a few videos. This is, you may recognize, I was a graduate student here, by the way, so I know the jugglers who come and juggle at Stanford. So what's going on here is that we're actually standing in a triangle around the camera. But because the circle around the camera is spread out into this rectangle, it looks like we're standing at equal spacing around them. And you can see down here, this is the tripod that it's sitting on, and then up at the top, there's a light up there. So what I got interested in this thing for was the possibilities in transformation of spherical images. What are the correct ways to transform space? So if you have a flat video, what does it mean to zoom in on something, right? If you do a digital zoom, what that means is you just scale the image and then crop in the boundary. If you have a spherical video, what does it mean to zoom in? Because there is no boundary to crop. What is it that you're supposed to do to make something bigger? So this is one thing that you can do. This is a zoom out. So this replaces one copy of us with 2. It's sort of unwrapping the whole sphere around you twice. This is actually the map I'm using here is the complex map z goes to z squared. That's all that this is doing with some code to unwrap to. If you want to do a pattern that has 6 jugglers in it, but only 3 of you showed up, maybe you can do this. Actually, can I get the sound up for this one? A past version of me. So, as I was saying, my name is Henry Segerman. This is a spherical Droster video. So you're sort of slowly zooming this way, or rather the frame here is coming over you this way, and over there's this sort of weird pedal portal in the middle of my apartment. This is the future, so there's future versions of me over there, and this is the past. So I'll hand you off to a past version of me to explain again what's going on. A past version of me. So, as I was saying, my name is Henry Segerman. This is a spherical Droster video. I'll save you the rest of this, but this is using this idea of zoom to do a zoom which is in spherical video, sort of is the same as a translation. And this uses these use things called Mobius transformations. Have you heard of these things? Last video I'll show you. I'll get the sound up again for this one. This is a collaboration with Vi Hart, and maybe I'll let it play for a second, and then I'll talk for a bit, and then I'll stop.
Dona nobis pacem pacem, dona nobis pacem,
Okay, there's a lot of stuff going on here. So this is a tripled world instead of a doubled world. So it's z goes to z cubed instead of z goes to z squared. And we're using that to do a round. So the musical form of a round usually has 3 voices which are offset in time, usually sung by different people. This one, all 3 voices are Vi, she's still offset in time, and we're also offset in space around this triplified piano. And then there's all kinds of other complicated things. So for example, there's only 1 copy of the sheet music, and it sort of moves around the piano and goes onto the different music stands. And there's always 3 copies of Vi, but there's only ever 2 copies of me. So there's some mysteries to work out here that maybe I'll leave you to ponder. I have a book. It's called Visualizing Mathematics with 3D Printing. It's telling a story of mathematics through the medium of 3D printing. It's saying there's some really nice, accessible mathematics that nobody ever writes about because you can't do it justice with 2-dimensional pictures. So most of the figures in the book are photographs of 3D printed objects. If you go to 3dprintmath.com, then you can rotate virtual models of these around on screen, and you can try and understand these 3-dimensional concepts. All right, that's my talk. Thank you very much.
Well, Henry, that was fantastic, and I truly see the inspiration of Gardner throughout your talk. Finally, magician Mark Mitten, who many of you met at the start, and yeah, can we have the house lights up, please? Thank you, is about to enter the stage. Mark performs and produces events all over the world. He has performed magic for business leaders, star athletes, Nobel Prize winning scientists, royalty, rock stars, and much, much more. Mark believes that the surprises of physical misdirection and comedy can teach us about the surprises in biology, psychology, philosophy, and mathematics. Let's welcome the endlessly energetic Mark Mitten.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. All right. So we're just going to do a warm-up to get everybody going. So can we have some warm-up music? Everybody stand up. I just want you to try a little thing. All right? Yeah, bring the music up. Come on, crank it. Crank it. Good, all right. Okay, everybody follow me. Do this. Okay? Nice and even. And now the other way.
I never met a girl.
Good. And now both ways at the same time. Here we go.
Whenever I'm asked what makes my dreams real, I tell them to do.
All right. You got it?
Look out, baby.
All right.
Here I go.
Okay, everybody sit down. All warmed up. All right. Jim, I'll explain it? So Jim Gardner taught me this, and that's why I'm doing it. It was a favorite of his dad's, really exciting. And it's really a great explanation of a new way to think about magic tricks, because this is not a magic trick, but it's something that you can do if you think about it the right way, right? So the whole key is that once you do this, you're thinking one way. If you're doing this, you're thinking another way. But to do both at the same time, you need to start here and think position 1 and move one hand forward and one hand back as you go to the bottom and think position 2. And actually, Jim just showed me this before. He actually holds his hands flat. And that might actually, I think that actually might help. So you start here as position 1 and go down to position 2 and go up to position 1 and down to position 2. All right? Do you feel it? Isn't that wild? All right, stretching our imaginations. All right, so then now we'll do a little math trick. I'm going to get this thing going. Okay. I'm trying to go all high tech. Being here. Oh, I just look at that. I just hit the wrong thing. This is, see, there's a lot. Wait, there we go. All right. We all know any sufficient technology. Do that. We can all say it in our minds. All right. We're ready. All right. You guys ready? All right. So now we need somebody random. And I didn't get you guys way up there. So we need, that first hand that went up. Can you say one digit? You're in pink. What would you like your digit to be? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9? 8. Okay, I love that digit. Okay, and can you point to somebody else back there and say a digit? Oh, wow. That is actually excellent. Can you feel it? You know what that is? That's 83. Let's hear it for 83. Come on. It's a great number. If you're 83, I want you to stand up right now. No. You don't need to. Please conserve your energy. All right. So I'm actually trying to do this in my mind. I don't know if I can, but I'll try. Let's hope I can. Man. All right. Okay. This is where it gets nerve-wracking. Because the question is, can I do it? 83. 83. 83. That's right. Okay, just because you said that's a 13, I'm going to put the film music in. All right. Let's hope this works. Okay. Oh, wait, it's upside down? Oh, I've got to do it this way. Oh, okay, good, okay. Well, tell me if you can see this number. What? Okay. Good, we've got the general idea. Wait, I'm just going to check this one more time in my mind, and then I'm going to go really fast, okay? Because I'm just not 100% sure, okay? I'm a little nervous. That's kind of a euro, half American. 17, okay, and then. This is the tough one. I used to use cheat methods, and then I just said, I'm going to learn this darn thing. Okay, did we get it? Thank you. You'll notice that's all the mathematicians applauding. I want to thank you all. Okay, let's do it for everybody else. Okay, so 13 plus 27 is? Plus 24? Plus 19? What? It's a miracle. 23 and 20, that's 43 plus 26? Plus 14? 17, 22, 15, 29? 16, 28, 18, 21? Let's do this row down here. 27, 20, 15, 21? 16, 22, 26, 19? Let's do those four. Then do those four. I'll leave it up for a while. Then those four. Then those four. The 83. That's right. And the center. And let's do the corners. Just the corners. Let's actually do that. 21, 16, 27, 19. Normally, I go through it, but actually we just don't have time to add it all up, but you guys do. Do you see it? It's all 83. So let's give them both a very big hand. Now, those tricks are not easy for everybody to do. So, when you kids out there, I wanted to give you something, and thanks to Martin Gardner, I can. Because I'm going to show you some classics from, here, let's do a little product placement. There are some of his beautiful books. Wait, did we go the wrong way? Oh, there they are, good. All right, there's some product placement. And then inside your packages, let's go to this little baby, all right? So, I have a prediction, and Henry Segerman is going to hold this tightly against his chest. Wait, I think it's even better if Rick, you hold this tightly against your chest. Don't let anybody see it. There is our prediction, all right? And now I need somebody from way over there, the forgotten people, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I want you to say any number between 1 and 16. Ma'am?
10.
What?
10.
10 it is. Wait, is that from up there?
Yeah.
Wait, what do you guys collectively, what would you like? 11. Look at that, a twist in the ointment. Okay, 11 it is. And okay, from over there, there's even fewer people up there. What number would you like that's left? You'll notice I crossed out all those numbers that were in line with 11. What, guys? 6? 6 it is. There it is, 6, and I'm going to cross out. Now, every number has an implicit choice, right? We only have 4 numbers left. 1, 13, your favorite, 4, and 6. Okay, we're going to go right back to that section way over there. What would you guys like, 1, 13, 4, or 6? Wait. Is that what you want back there? 13. It's come up twice today. Just like that. Look at. There's 1, and look at, there's only 1 number left, and that is? Okay, now we're going to add them up. 4 and 6 is 10. That's easy. Plus 11. That is 21 plus 13.
34.
Let's hear it for Rick. Thank you very much. Excellent. 34. You might ask yourself, why 34? This is a fun trick you can do for your friends, because if you follow that procedure, you make a grid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, sorry. And then you circle one number and then cross out the row and the column associated with that number, add them all up, and you will get the magic number. And actually, I'll show you an extra. And this was actually taught to me by Jim Gardner in the back of the room. It's actually from a wonderful magician from Winnipeg named Mel Stover, who was close friends of Martin Gardner. And I need somebody, where is that person? Where's that person that I need? Where's that person? Wait, you helped out before, but come on, you're fast. Could you come up really quick? All right, really quick, take this pen and run over to the sheet over there. Okay, be careful, don't knock over the camera. Okay, that's the 13 boy. Okay, and then over here, right here, come right up the stairs, and I want you on this calendar to encircle a 4x4 grid. So you can go there, in other words, a 4x4 grid of numbers. If you could circle them, in other words, with that pen, circle a 4x4 grid. Well, yeah, wherever you see there's 4 numbers there, so you can go up to 4, or you could do this side or that side. Wherever you see 4 numbers, you just need 4 numbers on the calendar anywhere you see them. And what is your name?
Kira.
Let's give Kira a big hand as she circles. Oh, yeah, perfect. That's really good. From the 2, so circle over there at the 2, go way over, and go all the way and go over 4, and now down 4, over back 4, and come back up to the 2. Perfect. And all right. Now, what I'm going to try to do, and I don't know if this is even possible. All right. Okay, we're going to have Alexa Meade hold this, okay, if you would. We've got some girl power in the room. If you could hold that. And then come up over here on this side of Kira so she can't see. Yeah, hide that number. Okay, good. And that's perfect. Maybe stand right here. Okay, good. Because, all right. Okay, could you circle one of the numbers? Yeah. Wait, they said 11 before. Is that what you want? Yeah. All right. Can you make the line this way and the line that way? Wow. All right. Circle any of the numbers left. Circle that number and then line up, line, good, and there, perfect. And now there's 4 numbers left. Circle any one of those 4 numbers. Okay? And line, line, good. There's only 1 number left. That happens to be my birthday. Isn't that cool? April 19th, yeah. All right, so circle it. And now let's add those numbers. We have 19 and 11. We know what that is, right? 30 plus 2. Plus 24. 50 what? 56? Alexa, is it even possible? Let's hear it for Kira and Alexa. Thank you. Some girl power in the room. Thank you very much. Excellent. All right, so you can do this. This is a great use of your old calendars at home. Right? Recycle, reuse, that's what it's all about these days, right? So, and does anybody know the secret of this great mystery? Yes?
It's the average of all the numbers. Add the first and last number and multiply by 2.
Okay, both methods would work, but Mel Stover was a magician. Okay, which meant, and actually this is really interesting. One of the things, and I'm actually teaching with a guy doing a math and magic course, and I'm realizing magicians do have something to bring to the party because we cheat. We think of the simplest possible way. And actually there's a mathematical lesson in that. And what Mel found out was you can make it really simple. You see, 23 and 5 totals. Double it. Now, what you said was actually the other way to do it. You can also circle this, the last and the first, and 28 and double, and you get. But isn't that interesting that it's both sides of it? Again, well, here's why magicians need that kind of stuff. Because we don't know if we can always see it, and we have to make the prediction no matter what. So we just like to streamline things, keep it simple, right? And just like that, there is some use to thinking that way, under what conditions. But now you all have a great trick that you can do at home, all right? So thank you very much, and great answers. Kira, Alexa, fantastic. All right. So, okay, we're going to do some other quick. We have some Martin Gardner magic that's going to appear up here, but there's a reason you're learning this, and I'm going to go really, really fast. You're going to learn a lot quickly. Okay, you've already learned a bunch of tricks, and magically, we're going to have some exercises to do through the magic of transformation. Boom. All right, the magic wiener, you've done it before, but let's do it together. All right, hold your fingers out. If you look at your fingers, you'll see your fingers. But now look at the other side of the room. And when you look at the other side of the room, you will see the floating wiener. The famous floating wiener. Now look at your fingers. Now see your fingers. Now look at the other side of the room. And it appears. Now do what magicians do and play. Make your wiener longer, shorter. Play with your wiener. Up. You know what I mean. All right. Up, down. Other ways. All right. You're not doing it. It's fun. It's fun. Okay. All right. Now, presto changeo. Take your sheets. Now, again, I have to thank Jim Gardner in the back of the room. We presented last year at the National Math Festival, and we pulled this out. Now, I had done this as a little kid, but I forgot that it's great. And Jim said, we've got to do this. It's great. And it's great. So you roll your paper up, yeah, or the bag. You've got the bag. It's not as easy with the bag, right? Okay, now, and don't hurt your eye. All right? And now what you do, it's the same thing. If you just look at your hand, you won't see anything. But look at the other side of the room. Okay? Look, so one eye is looking through the tube, and the other eye, look at the other side of the room. Do you all see it? Look far away. What I love to do is turn around, look at the people upstairs, downstairs. Are you all looking at the hole in your hand? Yeah. All right? All right. Now, this one, I wanted to do this forever because it's a noble illusion. It's called Aristotle's illusion, right? So all the philosophers in the room, I never knew how to do it until I came up with a slightly strange way with my wife, okay? So what I want you to do is break into pairs and one person crosses your fingers. So, yeah, so, okay, you can't both do it. So, okay, I'll make you the crosser and you're gonna do the other thing. Now, if you're the finger crosser, so 2 by 2 by 2, one person crosses their fingers and holds them up, okay? No, yeah, maybe you should cross your fingers and close your eyes. And don't cheat, it's way better. You'll see, it's actually amazing. Okay, so the person who's going to feel the illusion is going to be the person with their eyes shut. So now all the people with your fingers crossed, I want you to close your eyes as tightly as you can and do not open it until I say open your eyes. Are your eyes shut? Yes. Now the other people, I'm going to show you what to do. Okay, so the person next to you is, if you could do it, yeah. Touch, okay, you want to go to the person next to you. Keep your eyes shut, people with fingers crossed. Okay, keep your eyes shut. And now ask the person next to you, keep your eyes shut. And now with the person that's touching them, ask how many fingers are you feeling? Did you feel it? Did you guys get it? This illusion took me years to figure out. Because they say to do it with a marble. All right. You can. What? Is what?
He's trying to get your attention.
Oh, the nose? Oh, come up. We have a last minute addition from Jim.
And another version of this is close your eyes and touch the tip of your nose. How?
Yeah, could you turn this up a little bit? Because I'm not getting feedback. Which is good, but I can't.
All right, what you do is do the same thing, close your eyes, and slowly touch the tip of your nose. How many noses do you have?
There it is, Aristotle's illusion. All right. Okay. And can I use your bag? There's a reason. All right, thanks. All right. You know what? I'm going to go right to the bag, and I'm going to right to the bag. Well, I have a whole jungle thing, but we're going to jump over it because there's little time, and I want to slip in a trick at the end if we can, all right? All right, so, okay, here's what I want you to, okay, watch this first, okay? So what is magic? So the big thing is that you might not have as much information as you think you're getting. So there's one question to ask deeply. When do you see the world as it is when you want to? And I would say it's probably less than you think. Some magicians use magic to say that if you just look at the world in the right way at the right time, that you see it as it is. But you can also think about it, if one magic trick works once for one person, then that's not necessarily so, right? So this is a big tension, the tension between a deterministic outlook and seeing things as they are, or another thing that allows for the possibility of emergence. When we get into subjects like big data, this becomes really important. Like, how aware are you that you might not be able to see things as they are given your limitations? It's really hard. So one way to think about that is how illusions are created. So I'm going to show you in a very simple way. Just wait on your, just wait with your bags for a second, because this is a simple idea of a bag. So you're seeing a ball go in a bag, but, right, you might ask yourself, how much information do I need to see that? Like, so for instance, what if I throw the ball up in the air and it goes in the bag? Do I need to see the ball go, right? I mean, you think you might need it, okay, right? But maybe it goes through the bag like so, right? So you throw it in the bag, you thought you went in, but actually you didn't see anything. What if you don't have a ball and you throw it up and that appears in the bag, right? Just with an invisible ball, that's enough information. And what's interesting about each one of us that's in this room, we are all programmed to do that trick. When it doesn't go well, then it looks funny. Or when it looks right, it's just like a little trick. Now, I'm going to teach you all how to do this trick. What you do is, you need to do something to make that happen. We call this the effect, and the method is right here. It's right there. You see, yeah, so effect, method, and presentation is what magic is, right? So now, I'm going to snap my fingers. Okay, so the effect is when I take the ball that's not there, I throw it up, and I snap my fingers, right? Right? And if you can't snap your fingers, do not worry about it. What you should do is hit the ball, right? So just do this. Hit the back of the bag. All right? There's your bag. All right. So, so let me just ask you quickly. Did you all feel it? Yes. And what did you feel? What was the first thing you kind of felt when you did it? Magic. What else? Power? Anything else? What? Deception? Logic? Good. Magic. Did anybody feel I'm terrible at this? Right? Because one thing that all people that do stuff with their hands, whether it's solving Rubik's Cubes or painting, we all know the frustration of when things don't go right. But isn't it just as strange that your mind knows exactly when that ball should land? And did you feel the joy of when you made it work that way? Which is amazing, right? So here we go. Effect, method, and presentation. The questions to ask yourself about magic are, this is from Regina Reynolds, the wife of a prominent magician. All right? What happened? That's the effect. How else? That's what's the method from the observer standpoint, and who cares, right? Right? So then, and for those of you tracking this philosophically, like for cognitive psychology, what happened is this, the study of attention. Then how else is the study of causal patterns in action, Michaud, and then who cares is social information. You know, what happens. But of course, you're looking at effect is basically what's going on in our brain. The method is the causal patterns and the presentation. But what's unusual about magic is that we're often thinking about not one causal pattern, we're thinking about multiple causal patterns at the same time. And that's just like a big data set. So it's, you know, basically to a magician, a big data set looks like a hall of mirrors. Because not only do you have the two causal patterns, you have the causal patterns that are constructed from observing those causal patterns at the same time. So you actually get new causal patterns that emerge from the other causal patterns, and that what gives you that feeling that you're in a house of mirrors. So we're going to define magic as the apparent elimination of ambiguity. So the ambiguity that you're eliminating might be an elimination in your mind, but it might not be in the data. It might not be what's in front of you when you're driving. Okay? And so now we're going to add the social information, and I'd like you to stand up 2 by 2 and throw, we're just going to do it for 2 minutes, but I want you to throw one ball back and forth between two of you, so that not only do you get to judge yourself, you get to judge your neighbor. No, okay. But the truth is, then you can work it out together and hopefully make it good. So let's have a little music. You have 2 minutes to make it look great with your neighbor. All right. Does somebody up in the balcony have a large amount of money? Okay, sir, you do? Could you come up to the stage really quickly? What? What? Oh, I know him. That's true. I know him. I know. That's John Edmark. Let's give him a big hand. He spoke this afternoon. Okay, how about in the last row? Somebody back there, does somebody have just like a biggie, like a $4 bill? Something really big. I mean, cash these days is getting rarer and rarer, especially in this area. But does somebody have like a big, oh, you do. Do you mind? Could I use your big bill? All right, so come on, race up because we don't have any time. We're gonna make this thing happen. Okay, I've got a beautiful Sharpie. It's not a Sharpie, this is actually a beautiful, okay. And, oh, come on up, come on. This is good. And then we need a beautiful assistant, okay? Oh, this guy, no. Okay, you come up anyway. Okay, come on up. Okay, come up. Oh, wait, yeah, come on up. That's good. All right, here we go. All right, come right over here. I'll tell you what. Just go ahead and could you sign this thing? You can use my back. It's a $50 bill. We're going to make this happen. All right? Okay, here we go. All right, so that's good. And what is your name?
Gerson.
Gerson. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to
A
meet
pleasure. All right, and then here we have
Maya.
Maya and
Emil.
Emil. All right, very good. So come on over. What do you kids listen to? Like what kind of music?
70s and 80s rock.
70s and... And what do you listen to?
Classical.
Let's hear it. These are sophisticated kids. That is great. Okay, do you have any music? 70 or 80s rock or classical, if you've got it. Okay, we've got this. Do you want to check? This is a beautiful handkerchief. Make sure it's up to your exacting standards, Maya. Okay.
Falling into you,
Is that Dua Lipa?
baby. Even
I'm sorry, guys, but would you do it to... Okay, turn it up, turn it up. All right, here. Okay, Kirsten, hold this up. Yeah, that's good. Okay, and if you could just go back to the beat. Okay, come on over here. And in kind of a classical way, just move your hands like this. Good. And then kind of move the scarf like that. And then fold it to the music. Okay, bring the music up. Let's get it going. Come on. Bring it up. Bring the music up. Really beautiful. Yes, now fold it, Kirsten. Fold it.
Give it to you.
Good. And fold it
Even
again.
if I could, I wouldn't turn on you. And I would
Fold
stop
it
the
again.
world for you, you know.
And again.
I wanna let you know.
Good,
I'll
and
never
fold
let
it.
this feeling go. This
Okay,
love
give it to
has
me.
no ceiling.
Okay.
I cannot deny. Even if I could, I wouldn't turn on you.
Okay,
And I would stop the world for
fold
you.
it to the beat. Good. And come on over. Take your jacket off. What? What? There's nothing there? Wait a minute. Are you serious? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. He's got 11 in his shirt. What's going on? Gerson is a magician. I can't believe it. Are you guys ready? Wave your hands over the top. All right. All right. I've got a jackknife. Let's go to the front, just for the camera right down here. Ready? Come on, Gerson. Let's see if this works. All right. I hope this works. We don't have any more minutes. Oh, look at that. It actually looks a beautiful shot for this young man. All right. Okay, if you would, in a classical way, pull the money right out of the lemon, okay, and pass it to Maya to unfold. Let's see if, okay, here's your own special souvenir lemon, okay? And let's see if Gerson's signature is on it. Is that it?
That is it.
Show everybody. Let's give him a big hand! All right. Thank you all very much. Back to Rick. Thank you. Wait, thank you. You got it?
Thank you, Mark. And thank you all
We've run over time, so I'm not going to open it up to questions. I apologize for that, but perhaps the three speakers would be willing to stick around if anybody wants to come up and ask questions. Let's give a big round of applause to Alexa Meade, Henry Segerman, and Mark Mitten. Thank you all for coming tonight.